We're here today to talk about the benefits and the detriments to having music composition implemented into general education music classes in high school curriculum. Imagine you're a junior in high school. You've been asked to write a song for one of your general education music classes, a required class. Your teacher has asked you to write one verse and one chorus, lyrics only. If you feel comfortable, your teacher has encouraged you to add an instrument. Maybe you play guitar or the piano. Your teacher asks that you present your song to the class when you finished it. How do you feel about this? Do you feel excited, nervous? Do you feel confident, or do you feel panicked? Let's say you present your song to the class. You get a standing ovation. After class, your fellow students compliment you on how talented you are. How do you feel? Okay, now let's put you into a different role. Imagine you present your song to the class. You're shaking, you're nervous, you're racked with worry. You present your song and you put your entire heart into it. After you've finished, there's a little clapping and your students move on to something else. You walk from class to class for the rest of the day, wondering what people thought of your song, assuming no one liked it because not a word was said. After hearing that, and after putting yourself into those shoes, which scenario do you identify with? How would you feel composing a song and performing it to a room full of your peers? Do you think it would increase your self-esteem, or do you think it would hinder it? I've been a private music teacher for 10 years, and I have seen both sides to this argument. I'm well versed in the controversy surrounding it, and I'm very invested in the idea of whether or not music composition is beneficial or detrimental, and if it's a good aspect of music curriculum. Chances are you're not in high school right now, but think about your children. Think about your little sisters or your little brothers. Imagine them in music classes, and imagine them being asked to write songs. How do you think they would feel? What advice would you give to them? While listening to this speech, I also want you to take a journey back to your memories of high school. How would you feel if you were asked to do this? Given these thoughts, let's discuss the controversy in the minds of teachers and in the minds of school boards on this particular topic. For quite a few years, music teachers in the public school systems have questioned whether or not implementing music composition would be an asset to student learning. Some teachers believe that forcing students to write their own music can be a detrimental aspect of the student's self-esteem. Some teachers believe that giving students the challenge to write their own music can be beneficial and promote self-esteem. Let's discuss the benefits of this: student participation and student creativity. It is possible that writing music can actually nurture student individuality by bringing out their creativity. Dan Dutch, a music educator, published an article in Music Educators magazine in March of 2016. In his article, he speaks about the pros and cons of teaching students how to write their own music. He believes that composition, which eventually leads to assessment, can foster learning and push students forward in their self-esteem. Michael T. Hopkins, a professor at the University of Michigan, published an article in the Journal of Research in Music Education in January of 2016. In his article, he talks about how writing music can actually open the door to student collaboration, expanding the minds and the social circles of high school students. This can heighten their creativity through suggestions of their peers. So we've now discussed some of the benefits for adding music composition into classes. But not every teacher or school system sees music composition as a positive thing. Many educators and many school boards believe that music composition can be a detriment to a student's self-esteem. Teaching songwriting is an arduous task for many teachers, especially music educators who have no prior experience with songwriting. It could quickly become time-consuming and frustrating for everyone involved. Studies have been conducted that show that students can actually be emotionally harmed during the process of writing their own songs, especially if they are not musically inclined or if they have no prior experience in music. One of these studies was conducted by Dan Dutch, the same professor who said he thought composition could lead to higher self-esteem. He also believes that if music educators are not properly versed in songwriting, it could harm the students more than help them. Elizabeth Maynard, who's a professor at Bowling Green State University in Ohio, conducted a study analyzing the attitudes of students and teachers exposed to music composition implementation. Teachers in the study identified challenges to implementing composition because they said that they thought that performance culture traditions, time, class setting, preparation, and lack of student fundamental knowledge were large obstacles. These are some important sides to consider. Both hold validity and raise questions. Now that we've gone over some of the prevalent pros and cons, you're more familiar with why this topic is a little controversial. Benefits of music composition in high schools include the implementation of standards-based, sequentially designed curriculum, which can lead to higher level thinking and more organized thinking. Having the challenge of writing songs and sharing them can aid in self-esteem. And then, of course, there's the upside for the opportunity of student collaboration. But there's another side, and that's the barrier of time management, the barrier of prior student musical knowledge, and the barrier of teacher willingness and prior experience with songwriting. This is an important topic. If you could give students a boost in their creative thinking, higher levels of self-esteem, and expose them to beneficial classroom collaboration, wouldn't you? On the other hand, it could go the other way. You wouldn't want a student to feel too frustrated or for teachers to feel overwhelmed either. A challenge is one thing, but some students may not see this as a challenge. They may see it as an impossible mountain to climb. If it were your child, or your brother, or your sister, or you when you attended high school, what would you want? And where would you stand?